Hi everyone, got stuck into the house today, lifting the roof, try and get the dam built back into the house level again. So yeah, had my best mate come around, had my father come around and help me out with jacking the roof up. As you can see, we got some acro props in. We got 5 of them in, so it was a 3-man job to get this done, as we had to sort of wind up every second one at the same time, and then we'd move to the next 2 and wind them up half a turn, and we just kept going in half turns until we sort of started to see the nail. We're quite lucky that they used fairly long nails through that top plate into the wall stud. There's still we had there was 2 nails put in each one. We had to cut the front one out, obviously, to knock the packer in, but we left the back nail in for some support. What we're going to do in the morning is, with a long drill bit, we're going to pre-drill down through the top plate, through the packers, and into the wall frame. And then we're going to use long bolts, like long coach bolts, to bolt through them, because my nail gun won't take nails that are 120 mil long or 5 inches long. So nailing it is not an option. So we're gonna screw it. We've got about 12 of these wall studs that we have to screw down into. And we've got this piece of timber that bridges across the doorway here. I've put a 35mm packer up underneath the top plate there. So we're going to do the same thing, pre-drill it and just screw straight down through the 3 layers of timber there. And that'll take care of the of securing the roof. Now the other issue we've got is that the roof went up 35mm. So the fascias have gone up 35mm, and this board here that is sitting out a bit there at the moment, but this board here is the board that the eaves get nailed to. So that needs to go up 35mm, but I can't use a piece of timber underneath that piece of timber because the quad trim that's got to go in won't cover 35mm. So you'll actually see timber sitting on top of brickwork before the quad starts. So what I've got to do is I've got my bricks over there. I've got to make 25mm cuts. I've got to cut approximately about 6 bricks, but 3 times. So I've got to make 3, because a brick's 76mm. I need 25mm cuts. There's 10mm mortar joint, of course, so that makes up the 35mm. So I've got to lay 1 course of bricks all the way around in the next couple of days. I've got to go and get some new brick cutting blades for my 9-inch angle grinder in the morning, so we can get all the bricks cut. We may not get the bricks laid tomorrow, and I'm not really worried about the eaves tomorrow, as long as we get all the top plate fastened down to the wall frames again. That means we can put all the tiles back on. As you can see there, we've taken off all the tiles that we needed to take off to gain access to what we needed to. So we can get all the tiles back on. That'll seal up the roof, which will be great. I'll buy some ridge capping cement and redo all the ridge capping. I've got to do a little bit more. Hopefully the sun won't cause too much glare, and hopefully we can see it. I'll just extend the selfie stick here, or climb the ladder actually. So we've got to do all this ridge capping along here, all down here, and along the back, and up to the gable, because it's all this section that's leaking. So we're going to get that done. So yeah, if I've got a roof on there, it should be alright. It should be okay. Put the eaves back in any time. And I'm just coming down the ladder, guys, sorry. The reason I'm not fussed about doing the brickwork yet is that this section of wall, so this face, and this return here, all has to come down to ground level. It's 35mm out of level and 35mm out of plumb. So I've got to pull all this down and re-brick this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 25mm cut brick on top of that course. But I want to do all the bricklaying at the same time. There's no good putting it up there tomorrow only to have to tear this down in a couple of days time and remove those. So yeah, putting the eaves back in doesn't really bother me. Big deal if birds get caught in the roof, they get caught in the roof. There's a couple of dead ones up there anyway that got in through this hole up here, which has been stuffed with metal, steel windscreen, window fly screen wire. I got it out. Yeah, and when I stuffed that in, I didn't realise there was actually birds in the roof at the time. And about 6 months later, I got up there to run a new aerial cable and found a couple of dead birds up there. So if birds get in there, whoopie-doo. They'll probably be Indian minor birds, which are a pest and a plague, and we'll probably actually be doing nature a favour. So yeah, there's nothing else that'll really get in there once the tiles are put on. I'll just extend this boom again, selfie stick. So as you can see there, as we go up, that's all sealed by masonite from the wardrobe, so nothing can actually crawl in there. It's sure there's going to be a gap between the top plate and these. I'm not actually sure what chippies call these beams here. And just a cross brace the tiles sit on, I guess. There'll be a gap right along there, and that's where birds will enter if they're going to get in. But if I'm really fussed, I can find something to stuff in every single one of these. I've got lots of foam. I've got an old mattress on top of one of my cars in there. I can always cut that up and stuff that in, but I don't think it's really going to be an issue. As I said, they get in the roof, they get in the roof. We've got to, when we go to put the eaves back in, we've got to make some hangers that come off the trusses. You can see the remnants of the hangers that were there. Whoever built this extension did a really nasty cheap job on it. They used chipboard, which is turned into wheat bix. They used a bit something different there, a bit of wood there. The rest of it's all sort of broken off, so I'm going to make up new ones for all the trusses right around to hang these timbers off for the eaves. So yeah, we'll get the outside completed. We'll go around. I've got some builder's bog. Go around and I'll finally clean all this up and fill in all the nail holes and stuff. I've got a little bit of a gap over here now that we've pulled everything up. So unfortunately with that, there's not much I can do about it. I'm gonna have to fill it with something, maybe a mastic type compound. I can't push it back because you'd have to push the trusses back and they're nailed to the top plate and yada yada yada. So yeah, we'll just do a little bit of a filling job there, and yeah, it should all be good. What else? Of course, you know, the guttering will have to come off, or the drain pipe will have to come off when we pull that section of wall down. This door's got to come out, I think, as it stands at the moment, to level the floor inside, to bring the level up inside. We'll need to bring that floor up and create a new floor surface for the door to sit on. So again, I think that's got to come up about 35 mil. It seems everything's come up 35 mil. That's how bad the crack was in the slab. So it cracked through there, and it sort of started to crack along here a little bit, and it cracked up here, and then it started to crack along here, but it never opened up across the middle of the room. But I think underneath the surface, it obviously must have cracked in a wedge shape and all the guts fell out of it, and that caused the slab to roll back in on itself. And it was more severe here because we have a drop of 58 millimeters in that corner, but as we work our way along towards the door, it's only a drop of 35 millimeters. And it pretty much levels out at about probably here, this part here, so along here, just over halfway of the room. All this section's pretty level. It's out by about 2 millimeters, so it's not too bad. I won't have to put any fill in there because I can always, when I put the floating floor down, if I need to make up 1 or 2 mil, all I'll do is put an extra layer of underlay underneath it, because that only comes in at about 1 or 2 mil anyway. So you can see the dramatic change since we lifted the roof with the wardrobe doors. These were really bent. It's like everything was leaning over. It was almost like the door openings were no longer square. They were actually sort of leaning over, almost like a diamond. But they've come back a lot. The actual trim or skirting board, or whatever you want to call it, architrave up the top actually looks like it's bowing now, but it's not the architrave. It was the adjustment on the doors that I had made. So what I have to do is obviously loosen the bolts off now on the inner brackets and let the door swing back, and the doors will look straight again. You can see it's identical on this side all the way up. So yeah, we just got to loosen off those top bolts, and the wardrobes will look good again. We were very, very lucky. We got no cracking whatsoever. No cracking. That's a spider web you can see there, if it looks like a crack on the footage. We got no cracking in any of the plasterwork. We do have a crack up there, but that's one that's formed over the last 3 years, obviously with the house settling after the underpinning. So, you know, that's not from lifting today. So everything else has remained pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. So I won't have to do really any plaster work in here, except for we have to move this switch tomorrow as well. Lucky my best mate's an electrician, so we're just going to feed the wire up through the wall and feed it down this side and bring it out through that hole there. Got a slight little crack there, just a little bit of spackle or something. We'll fix that up, fill that hole, make those repairs up there around the cornice, and it looks like there's a bit flaking out of the wall there. Hopefully the camera angle's alright. So we'll repair that, and that's about it for the plaster repairs in this room. And we thought we were going to have to do a lot more because all the cornice would fall out when we jacked the roof up, but it didn't, which is fantastic. We got some advice off my best mate's friend, turns out he's a chippy. I've been looking for a chippy for years to do this job. This guy probably would have done it. He didn't know about it. So anyway, we rang him for some advice this morning, and his way of lifting the roof, and I'm glad we didn't do it his way, was to pull all the plasterboard off on the inside of the room, put the knock all the battens out, or every second batten out inside the wall frame, insert the acro props, and jack the top plate from inside the room, which means that I would have had to dismantle all the wardrobes, pull all the plasterboard out, everything. But we didn't do it that way. We did it our way, and it worked. You can see, I don't know if you can see up there with the light, but because the roof is lifted, this wardrobe's lined with masonite sheeting. There is a gap up there now, but we can easily repair that. Just put a block of wood or some trim or something up in there, just like almost like a cornice piece. There probably is a piece of quad there actually. I can't see myself with the shadows, but we'll have a bit more of a look at that tomorrow. I only noticed that when I was looking at the wardrobe doors earlier, that it moved, but no, we're very lucky. So yeah, he was saying pull all the plasterboard out, knock out every second noggin, put your acro props in there, and jack the top plate. So probably all the corners would have got busted open as well. The roof ceiling would have got damaged. You got to wonder sometimes, you know, these people are supposed to be professionals. Yeah, no wonder they fucking charge a fortune. We just did this. We did it nice and slow the way we did it. We just propped it under the main trusses, the two main corners, and then went either side of the door because there's no real load over the top of the door. We went either side of the door, and we just went one around the corner here, just to take the weight. As you can see, we got the packets up there, but they get less and less as we go along as the roof leveled out. And yeah, all we did is after we did a half turn and alternated between the props, I'd get up there with a cold chisel and a hammer and wedge that in between the wall stud and the top plate, and just help the nails to free themselves. And every time we did it, I just went round and did that until we got to a point where the gaps were opening up enough, and then I could get like a little pry bar in there, a crowbar type thing, and then we would just assist it with the crowbar. And then eventually it got to the point where we were just cranking on these things and the nails were just slipping out, so we didn't need to really we didn't need to do anything anymore. So it worked out really good. This corner was a little more severe because this is the bad corner This is the real bad corner on the house. As I said, the floor inside's dropped by 58 mil. This one, when we jacked up the top plate, the nails on all the rest of the wall frame uprights, the nails were still actually in the timber. These ones actually came right out of the timber. So the nails that would have ran, let me climb this ladder, guys. The nails that were actually put through this top plate and into here actually came out of this wall frame and were just like floating there. There was nothing, you know, they weren't in the wood anymore. So this side had to come up a lot more than that side. But, you know, yeah, tomorrow, as I said, we'll drill right down through the guts of everything, and we'll put some like big coach bolts in through there, and it'll never move. You can see by that how much the house slipped. So, you know, that's all going to be, now this wall's going to all be pushed back when I relay it. So there'll be no gap there anymore. Yeah, so yeah, we're just gonna continue with this over the next couple of days. As I said, we'll get the roof done, we'll get that sealed up first. We won't worry about the eaves for now. Once the roof's done, we'll worry about pulling this brickwork down, get the brickwork relayed, get that extra course of bricks put on top. Then once that's done, then we can start fitting the eaves up. Then once the eaves are in, then we'll move inside, we'll level the floors. The floor, not multiple, it's one floor. We'll level the floor. And we may have to take the sliding door out. We're not 100% sure yet. We're going to make final measurements in the morning. But if we've got to take that out to sit on the new floor level, we'll take it out. We may just sneak it in, but the rather than there being a step here, as there is now, the actual timber floorboards will come almost to the top of this lip. So you won't actually have this, you know, you won't actually have that aluminium edge there anymore. It'll finish flush. So we can do it that way, or we can actually build up the slab there and sit the door on a raised floor, and then have the floorboards sitting. You can see there my finger stops, there's a lip there. We can have the floorboards laid and sitting under that lip, so we still keep that aluminium rebate. So we're not sure. As I said, we'll suss it out in the morning, one thing at a time. You know, this was a job that we did today that none of us have done before. None of us are really skillful with wood. So yeah, one thing at a time. We won't rush it. When we rush it, we're going to stuff it. Yeah, anyway, I'll leave it here for now. I've been rambling on for 22 minutes, and I'll keep you up to date with what we get through tomorrow. Cheers.